Professor Micaela Sinibaldi of the University of Warsaw is an expert on the archaeology of the Crusader-era castles of Jordan and is carrying out an extensive survey at Kerak.
Karak Castle is known in all documentary sources of the Middle Age as one of the most untakeable castles of the Middle East. It was the seat of the Lordship of Transjordan, starting from 1142, and therefore he was massively defended both by natural defenses and also by artificial defenses.
Because on three sides it's basically protected by just steep, almost cliffs.
Yeah, this is a technique that the Franks used quite often when building their castles. They used natural rock spurs, so at the meeting of two wadis they would place a castle and they cut a moat isolating the castle from the rest of the bedrock.
Okay, so this has actually been hacked out by human hands?
Yes, exactly. So this was naturally connecting the castle to the actual town.
Kerak's near impregnable defensive location is most evident from the air. The builders used the natural features of a spur. Around the edges, huge sloping sides were created, known as glacis. We're standing on the northern side of the fortress in a man-made moat, carved out to separate the castle from the medieval town.
This massive moat was cut enormous proportions for the time, so it was 30 meters deep.
This
and
was 30 meters deep?
Wide, yes.
Whoa! So they're surrounded on three sides by valleys, so they basically created a man-made valley here.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. So actually the Franks cut this rock spur on two sides, on the north side but also on the south side, which was the most exposed originally, and it's probably the first thing that they did as soon as they arrived and decided to build the castle here.
To the south of the castle lies the valley that was deepened in the first building phase. To the north of the new castle, on a slight rise, stood the town of Kerak. This left the castle vulnerable to attack from this side, hence the need for deep, man-made northern defences.
Here the moat was massive because it was connected to the town, and this is where most of the attacks actually focused, coming from the town.
So if this moat is incredibly deep, how are the defenders getting in and out of the castle?
There was a drawbridge connecting the town to the castle itself, similar to the one that we can see at this moment. So the original gate was probably located more or less where we see the current one.
So we've got the moat here, and then very powerful wall here with towers as well, in case anyone managed to get across that moat.
The walls were about 4 meters thick, and the two towers at the side, of course, were defending attacks from this side as well.
Beyond the massive moat, Kerak had a huge interior, full of the buildings you'd expect in a Crusader fortress. A powerful donjon on the southern edge, and a chapel, now largely ruined, above the eastern flank. But right from the beginning, Kerak was expanded, and vulnerable points were strengthened. Hidden within the buildings are clues about how the castle was toughened with additional layers of defence. So Micaela, we've come below the chapel now, so what room was this?
We're under the Crusader chapel, and this room was probably a sacristy or a side chapel. And what's interesting about it is that the window is blocked by another wall.
So that's interesting. So if I look in here, look at that, you can see there's a whole room back there as well, isn't there? So what's going on with that?
Because a church was normally one of the first buildings to be constructed in a castle, we think that this is actually the original phase, the one of 1142, and that because this wall is blocked behind this, we actually have the fortifications of the walls of the 50s and 60s.
Peering into the gloom, you can make out a space beyond what was originally a window on the outside world. There's a later wall just a few meters beyond.
The history of the fortification at Karak Castle is quite complex because it was first constructed by Payen the Butler in 1142, but in the 50s and 60s we know from the documentary sources that the defenses were increased actually by his successors. Maurice and Philip of Nablus. And what we know, we have quite a detailed description of what was done. Some walls and towers were added.
So this castle was always changing, always expanding, always getting stronger and stronger.
Yes, the defenses were increased with the walls and towers, and we know now by looking at this specific spot that it was probably done on the eastern side rather than on the western side.